Welcome, everybody. It's Rich and Mark with Winter's Warehouse. Hey, we're here for the Texas Hold'em Real Estate Show, and we appreciate everybody tuning in, all 12 of you. Anyhow, we had a pretty good week. Wanted to continue talking about tenants and such this week. We talked about contractors and quite a few things, and
talked about how to put the crew together. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff.
Being from Texas, I'm from a little tiny small town in East Texas, and I thought it'd be fun to have a good redneck saying every week. So my saying this week is, we're happier than a tornado in a trailer park. I thought that was pretty good.
I like that one.
It's terrible. Anyhow, we were talking about tenants and how to find a good tenant. All that stuff is coming up. Why would you want to be a landlord's coming up? Then
Talk a little bit about managing the property too, right?
Yeah, we'll go through the management part. How do we do the lease docs? How do we handle the move-in? How do we do collections? How do we enforce the lease? What about evictions? How to handle maintenance, move-outs, security deposits. Because security deposit laws are very strict in Texas, so you got to do it right. We'll kind of put a little COVID twist on it, hopefully, to kind of help folks through this period of time where we have these issues.
That's good.
But for the most part, we want it to be generic and go through all the different things that you have to consider when managing your tenants.
I think that's all really good stuff. So you want to go ahead and just move right into maybe a recap from last week, a week before, as to why you want to be a landlord, kind of recap.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the yield and, the amount of money you can make in the long run with appreciation. I mean, appreciation is the key, right? We talk about cash flow. We talk about tax savings, benefits, all these benefits of rental property, but the real one is the appreciation and building wealth in the long term. And we've all been doing it for years.
Explain that a little bit. What do you mean? Everybody always focuses on, if my property doesn't cash flow $200 a month or $400 a month or $500 a month, I'm not going to do it. What do you mean by appreciation instead of cash flow?
Well, you got to remember, we've talked about this how many times. The houses go up in value over time, typically, right? So if you have a 3.5% appreciation, 3% appreciation, you say, well, that's a 3% return. Well, not so fast. Usually you put down 20% or less on a purchase of a rental property. Okay. So let's assume 20% and you have a 3% appreciation. The house goes up 3% in value. Well, you have to multiply your cash yield by 5 because you only put up 1/5 of the money, but 5 times the amount that you put up is going up 3%. So when you look at that, you make $3,000 on a $20,000 investment, so to speak, if you had a $100,000 neighborhood.
Gotcha.
And so there you go. There's 15% on your 5,000, on your 20%.
On your 20%, right.
The other part is you probably have a loan, and that loan pays down some of the principal, and it's paid by the tenant. So that's another 4% or so of yield because your loan just decreased about 4% of the value of the house.
Nice.
Principal and interest payments, the principal portion is about 4% of the house year one, and it gets better from there. If anybody that's familiar with an amortization schedule would understand that. So
my Texas Tech math said you just talked about 3%, you just talked about 4%. That's 7% right there. But then when you figure out the yield on your cash, we're really talking about 15% plus another, what'd you just say?
Plus 4%.
So now we're talking 19%.
And that's assuming a 3% appreciation. And in Houston, Texas, it's been significantly higher than that over the last 10 years, about double.
Okay. So that makes sense.
No guarantees on appreciation, but we've talked about this a lot as well as the wheelhouse of where to invest in property, right? We talk about somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 neighborhoods because builders aren't building that product anymore.
Right.
So you've got an increase in demand, you've got a decrease in supply, and so that all adds up to the Texas Tech math you were talking about. Values ought to go up, right?
Sure. So you're saying if I'm a tenant and I can afford $1,600 a month in rent, That's about $160,000 property on the 1% rule in Houston, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people aren't building $160,000 houses for that person that can afford 1% of the value of the house and say a mortgage payment with interest and taxes.
No, builders have to deal with the cost of dirt nowadays. It's outrageous. And with all the flooding issues we've had over the years, the municipalities have gotten very strict with all the flood control rules, retention, grading, all these things. So it's increased the cost of developing the land. So you've got higher land prices, higher cost to develop. So that adds up to, we need to build a $300,000 or $400,000 house to make any dang money on this transaction. Just think about it. If I'm going to build a $200,000 house and I can make money at it, I might do that. But if I can build a $300,000 house, do the same amount of work, but make more money to do the same process. One plumber, one electrician.
On the same dirt.
Same dirt. So it's not necessarily more work. The only difference really is you might be building a little bit bigger house, using a little bit more materials.
The finishes are probably going to be a little bit nicer.
Maybe a little nicer finishes. So your debt may be a little more if you were a builder.
So that's why the supply is just not there. And that's why, that $1,600, I got $1,600 for a mortgage or for a rental. I don't have a lot of options other than probably a rental.
So those folks are living in apartments because they're building $1,600 apartments.
True.
People don't want to live in an apartment, especially in this atmosphere now where folks don't want to be so close to each other. The whole urban living thing is going out of style a little bit. The suburban living may pick up quite a bit. People want a little elbow room to get away from people. Sure. and have some space. I have animals here. I'm building a fence here coming up because I have goats and chickens, and I don't want the dog from down the block to get in there and get after them. So
sure, right.
I think people like it. People like to have that space in the yard so they can have their pet and just open the door and let them out versus, oh, we got to put the leash on, go down to the pooping area where it stinks, where nobody's right. picking it up. And then right. you pick yours up and haul it back upstairs in your house. People don't want that. They want their own private space.
So that's why there's really a demand for those rental properties you're talking about between $1,200 to $1,800 a month. Right. That makes sense.
And the key also is, since there's less supply, more demand, not only is it going to appreciate, but the rents are going up.
Oh yeah, that's right. You got rents going up too. All right.
We increase the rent on tenants just about every single renewal. It might be a situation where you have a brother-in-law or the best tenant you've ever had in your life, and you've agreed to keep the rent the same for so many years, whatever. If you want to do that, it's not my business, right. But for the most part, the market rent is increasing every year.
And that's going to increase your yield then, especially if you don't have any debt service or mortgage. Once that house pays off in 15, 20 years, now it's just going to keep going up on your yield, right?
You got it.
Nice. Well, we might want to continue that for a few seconds in the next segment and then kind of move right into finding tenants. How's that sound?
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll take a break and be right back, and we'll talk about how to find the tenants. This is Rich and Mark with the Texas Hold'em Radio Show. Hold those houses. We'll see you in a few.
Oh, my alarm went off. Wonder how I turned